And, after Joe Biden's debate, I said he needed to consider getting out, but I said also for a guy who's been in politics for 50 years, who's been in public service for over 50 years, we need to give him time. We need to give him some time. There it is. For a man who's given more than 50 years of his life to public service, it is more than fair to take a breath and see what happens over the next few days. Well, those few days have turned into about a week and a half. And here we are. And I find it absolutely fascinating. We're going to get to the Bloomberg polls that came out this past weekend. And I've already talked about the Siena poll that shows Donald Trump losing independence. I mean, after Joe Biden's debate performance. But Joe Biden now has what I would dream of having if I were running for president of the United States in his position. I've got Washington insiders against me. Well, let's just put it the way it is. Joe Biden now can say he's having to fight media elites, New York Times editorial page, billionaire donors. They've been on the phone for a week and a half. Washington politicians, even though Mark Warner has now canceled his meeting. And the Congressional Black Caucus, by the way, not really happy with all of these people trying to substitute their elitist viewpoints for that of millions of Democratic primary voters. Hollywood moguls, hey there, Ari, and Ms. Disney. And, of course, MAGA extremists. So Biden allies now, this is what they're going to say. Oh, wait a second. So you're telling me that media elites and billionaire donors and Washington politicians and Washington moguls, they all think that they can substitute their judgment for the judgment of millions of Democratic primary voters? John Heilman, it may happen. And this isn't about what ought to be. This is about what is. And, Joe Biden has a fired up, angry Democratic base in parts, and he's got a lot of elites putting him in a position where he can look strong, staring them down. So where are we this Monday morning as we go into one of the more pivotal weeks in American politics?
Well, I think, Joe, that the idea that the way that you framed it, which is the way that the Biden campaign is trying to frame it also, which is that, Joe Biden is being defiant in the face of out-of-touch elites across the spectrum who are trying to force him out of the race. And that's a good fight to have. I think that there is one, if we move away from the rhetorical framing of it and into the more substantive reality of it, is that one of those categories of elites are elected officials. And elected officials who represent a whole bunch of voters and who are paying attention to what voters are saying. We don't know yet what members of the House who've come back to Washington, what they all heard over the time they've been home on their recess, which is the entire period essentially from the debate all through last week. And I imagine that all these House members have a pretty good fingertip feel for what's going on at home, what they're hearing from their voters. And I think they're not. They are, to the extent that some of them would like Biden to step down. And as you know, yesterday there were more calls on this call that Hakeem Jeffries did yesterday. There were 4 ranking members of Democratic committees on the House side who came out and said that Biden should, on that call, at least they wanted Biden to step aside. A couple more who said that they had pretty profound concerns about it. I think those people are, unlike in reality, unlike you can say about billionaire donors that they are billionaire donors, and they obviously would like to win, like to see their money that they're putting into behind Joe Biden. They like to see that be for a candidate they think can win. But I do think that Biden's biggest challenge right now is not even the donor class. It certainly isn't the media, which we can talk about all day about whether the media, what the media's role in all this is. But I do think that their biggest challenge is his party on Capitol Hill, which Joe Biden clearly cares about. He is essentially playing chicken with members of Congress, and they are in a staring match right now. A lot of people on the Hill would like Biden to step aside. They do not want to come out publicly and say that. Biden is essentially saying, if you want me out, you're going to have to come out and say it. And if I had to say what I thought the ultimate dynamic here is going to be is, does there come a day in the course of the next week where the following 4 people, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Jim Clyburn, Hakeem Jeffries, either alone or in together, either literally or figuratively, go to Joe Biden and say, you've lost the party, and we don't see a path forward. We think it would be best if you stepped aside. If that conversation happens, I think it would be hard for Joe Biden to go forward. If it doesn't happen, it's a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah, I think it's very unlikely I just think it's unlikely that's going to happen. I think it's unlikely it's going to happen because you talk again to members of the Democratic base, you talk to members of the Congressional Black Caucus, you talk to a lot of core Democratic voters. You even look for anecdotal evidence. A lot of angry Democrats out there who are asking why these people are trying to substitute their judgment for Joe Biden's. Or for the millions of voters who voted for Joe Biden. So, it could happen. It could happen, but I suspect that these House members, and I started to suspect this a couple of days ago, Mika, that these House members were probably hearing back in their home districts. What I heard when I was vacationing with my kids.
Or what they were screaming in the church in Philadelphia.
Or what they were yelling in the church in Philadelphia. But when I was with my kids and the window was rolled down and had a couple different people go, "Hey, Joe, leave Biden alone."
Yeah, you did.
And that was like in the day or two after the debate. And it's anecdotal. Everything's anecdotal. But I've had enough calls from elites over the last couple of weeks who want him out, and enough calls from members of the sort of Democratic rank and file. They're not ready for him to get out. And they're wondering why the elites are splitting the party. And I think part of it is they don't have confidence that Kamala Harris is going to do any better than Joe Biden in Wisconsin, in Michigan, and in Pennsylvania.
We're going to hear more from Ryan Nobles in just a moment, his latest reporting on what's going on with this on Capitol Hill. Most polls still show a competitive race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump, even after last month's debate. The latest survey from Bloomberg News and Morning Consult finds every battleground state within the margin of error. Aside from Pennsylvania, according to the poll, Trump narrowly leads among registered voters in Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, and is ahead by a larger margin in the Keystone State. Biden, meanwhile, holds small leads in Michigan and Wisconsin. Separate polling from CBS News and YouGov showed the race essentially tied among likely voters nationwide, the same as it was in May. Polling from the New York Times and Siena College shows Trump leading by a wider gap among both registered and likely voters
right after the
nationwide.
debate.
But that poll did show independents moving toward Biden.
So Sam Stein, Mika will tell you, I do this show, and then I just, I just dig a hole and go into it and sleep for about 20 hours, then I come back and do the show. I do not, as you know, you've known me a long time, I do not work the phones. I just don't. I do not. I'm not like, hey, what's happening? What are you hearing on your? I just don't do that. I got 4 kids and I got 4 hours and I read in for the most part.
And nobody knows nothing anyway.
And nobody knows nothing anyway. I had been on the phone nonstop for 2 weeks, and it is so interesting that after the debate, everybody was in meltdown mode, including the campaign, talking about how they had heard that I talked to the most powerful Democrats who all believed after the debate they were going to see Biden down by 10 points. They all believed the small dollar donors were going to dry up. They all believed it was a matter of days. It reminded me so much of when Sam Donaldson got on ABC News right after Monica, after that news came out, and said Bill Clinton wouldn't last the week because everybody in official Washington said Bill Clinton wouldn't last the week. It reminded me of Access Hollywood when everybody said, including Mike Lee, I would never support such a man or let anybody talk to my wife, or the guy that's at the front of the National Front carrying that flag. But we heard it was over then. I must say, on that phone all day yesterday, I was hearing just the opposite. I was hearing the opposite from campaign, from Democratic donors, and especially from members of the Congressional Black Caucus. They're like, what? The polls are the same. We're with Joe. why are these people picking on him? I'm
Right.
just reporting.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard
Just bringing the news.
I'm sure you've heard the same thing. They were actually, the Biden campaign went from a week ago saying it's all over to yesterday going, oh my God, we feel energized, especially with Fetterman and Casey and everybody going around with him. He said it was one of his best days on the campaign trail in 2020 or 2024.
I'm glad to hear you're working the phones again. We need you out there. I, too, was also working the phones. And to your point, I talked to a member of Congress yesterday about what the reaction was in his home district. And he said it was about an 80-20 split. 80% of his correspondence with voters were Democrats saying Biden needs to stick it out. People are being too rude, too mean. They're trying to push him out. 20% of respondents were panicked about Biden's position, worried about the election. The split was even more interesting because of who he was talking to. Predominantly, African-American voters were the ones who wanted Biden to stick with it. And more middle-upper-class white voters are the ones who tended to be more panicky. And I think that gets at the place we're in right now, where you see the base of the party, the bedrock constituencies, the CBC members saying Biden should stick around. They're offering the support to him. They're coming out vocally saying he needs to stay. You even saw Representative Clyburn, who obviously matters tremendously in this whole process, put out a supportive statement the other day, too. There are obviously major pockets of discontent and fear within the party. You saw about 9 members total now have said they want Biden to drop the race. Look, I don't think that's a great position necessarily for the party. It's fine for Biden. But when 20% of your party is skittish, that's not great. But it is survivable if Biden chooses and wants to survive it.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.